Central banks during COVID-19 move away from a ban on financing. Hello everyone, the theme of this video. Central banks during COVID-19 move away from a ban on financing. And now forward. The financial system, during the coronavirus pandemic, destroys information for government borrowing and for lending to large financial institutions. Soon, this could also destroy the ban, which is supposed to keep these issues aside. Governments that buy finance spend it on loans from their own primary central banks, which is called economic financing. The risk that repeats during chronological events is that it becomes a slippery slope where politicians take a severe blow to the independence of critical financial institutions, causing runaway inflation when they spill out what seems like loose cash around the economy. Tighter measures against direct financing continued even through a chain of crises, while central banks did buy a lot of government debt. They just made sure to do it in a roundabout way, buying up bonds inside the secondary market. But in the context of the deadly disease COVID-19, which puts unprecedented demands on budgets and will put pressure on the potential of bond markets to finance them, some financial experts say that the time has come for such a course as a broken mirror. Independence does not imply the need to say no to a request for direct monetization, says Willem Buiter, chief economist at Citigroup. That means you can say yes or no. Right now, according to Buiter, the solution that makes economies feel developed is yes. Because they are investing in the fight against coronavirus, policymakers should not worry about the sovereign debt market, he says. In what could lead to a reduction in the intermediary, major central banks can simply buy debt directly from governments or, of course, lend to the Treasury. For the rest of the week, the Bank of England thought it was doing something similar to the latter, causing a flurry of enthusiasm among observers for vital banks, when it extended the overdraft to the government. Overdraft has been attracted before, both in wartime and at the present maximum after the 2008 economic disaster. However, the current history of economic coverage is full of intermediate actions taken at some stage of the crisis, which proved difficult to reverse. And that they tend to push back state and imperative finances, as financial institutions are more closely intertwined. For example, the vital financial institution, the Central Bank of Japan, began accumulating government bonds decades earlier in order to break out of the grip of deflation. Now it has a stability sheet more than the economic system. It owns about 43% of the government's brilliant bonds and has seen how its scope for quantitative easing is replicated throughout the economic world. The Bank of Japan took that path in the late 1990s, and we all followed suit, said Russell Jones, partner at Llewellyn Consulting, a London-based research institute. It was a modern shift. We are moving closer to open cash finance. This barrier can be overcome soon, he said. If the economy continues to deteriorate due to the pandemic, you can see that the relevant banks immediately directly finance the governments. They will do it explicitly, it's just a matter of time. During a severe monetary crisis, large banks may want to reasonably argue that buying assets was the pursuit of economic cover in another way, lowering long-term borrowing costs in order to stimulate borrowing in private personal areas. In 2020, this false list will no longer be. We are currently not entirely engaged in the financing of financial deficits. However, governments may be the primary beneficiary of procurement of major financial institutions. A long-standing concern was that the transfer of this kind of cash-generating energy to politicians with short-term election goals would lead to excessive costs that would harm the economy in the long run by inflating inflation. Here, in this review article, I express my personal observations and opinions. Register for free on the links, participate in programs and receive dividends. More information on the addresses on the screen.